Hi, Michelle here again. Today I'd like to talk about boundaries. We all hear about boundaries and how important it is to know your boundaries and to set your boundaries to keep you healthy and protected and well. But sometimes it can get rather confusing because in relationships, you care about each other and you don't want to hurt each other's feelings and you want to be respectful and have a good, healthy relationship. But sometimes maybe you might not have a healthy boundary and you might be getting resentful, or maybe if you try to communicate to somebody, they don't listen to you and invalidate you. So what do you do about those resentful feelings or when you can't communicate with somebody? Well, usually when you're having resentful feelings means that probably one of your boundaries is being violated. So it's important to decide and prioritize what is worth it to get into a conversation with someone to confront them about something that's bothering you. Say if it's a minor issue, then maybe you can just shift what you're thinking about it and it won't bother you so much. But if it's important, if it's really important, then you do need to address it. Now, what if this person is someone who does not do well whenever you address something? They get defensive and angry and don't like to be confronted or be held accountable or to receive any form of criticism. And instead, they turn it around on you and tell you that you're being inappropriate and maybe label you with some behavior, and you're just trying to assert your boundary and communicate with them and get along with them, but they're not cooperating. So I guess you keep trying, and if they don't listen to you, then it's a deal breaker. Then I guess, maybe that relationship is not worth it because they're not helping, it's not reciprocal. They are not mature enough to even communicate with you and achieve some level of mutuality and respect and reciprocity. So that's where it gets very frustrating because there are lots of people who are emotionally immature and do not have healthy boundaries and don't know and aren't aware of that. And so they can be very egocentric and tend to be on the narcissistic end of the spectrum of personality and very self-absorbed and just self-centered, and so they can't see and what the other person is going through and can't put themselves in the other person's shoes. So those people are very difficult to get along with, and it's hard to establish boundaries. And in fact, they will do everything they can to worm out of taking accountability, and they will use all kinds of manipulative tactics like rationalization, minimalization, denial. They'll even give you the silent treatment or ignore you or stonewall you. If it's something they say, oh, well, you didn't approach me the right way about it, so I just ignored you and I wasn't even gonna talk about it, when you finally do get them to talk. And then they say that you're being too sensitive, or they'll bring something up from the past that has nothing to do with it that they were mad at you about, to make it all about how you were wrong in the past, and just pretty soon you're just like, it's not worth it. Every time I try to set a boundary or communicate or try to get along with this person, they just won't work with me. So those are the people where eventually, if you can't get through to them, then probably it's best to limit contact or just no contact with them, because they just aren't capable of having a mature relationship, and you're only going to be frustrated and banging your head against the wall while you may care about the person and wish things were different, but you cannot change that person. So also with those types of people, they will try to manipulate you and make you feel bad and feel guilty and say that it's your fault, and turn everything around to where you, after you've talked, they gaslight you and you just don't know which way is up, and then you're thinking that, oh, well, maybe it is me. So those are very messy situations, and it's best to get out of Dodge. So another thing is that parents can also teach their children unhealthy boundaries. Parents will often tell their children, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, and they will punish them for having feelings. And so eventually the child does not have good boundaries and doesn't even have good self-awareness, and they're not in touch with their emotions either, because every time they try to express themselves, the parents shut them down or tell them they're wrong or they shouldn't be feeling that way, or will tell them that's not how you really feel, things like that. So throughout our lives, we learn lots of unhealthy things. So as adults, it's a really good idea for everybody to educate themselves about what healthy boundaries are, and emotional boundaries, physical boundaries. You know, you have a right to privacy, you have a right to your belongings, you have a right to your feelings, you have a right to express yourself in a healthy way. You have a right to your body and your physical space, where people need to get permission before they intrude or touch you, or you know, you have your privacy. People should not go and read your personal things. You have rights. Even children have rights too. So I believe that parenting in our society is, I don't know, I think there are lots of practices that are very unhealthy and damaging towards our children. But that's for another day. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. Is it's really important to know yourself, know your feelings, know what you're really thinking, your truth, so you can enforce healthy boundaries. And it's important for you to distinguish what's someone else and what's you. Like, you may be empathetic and you feel bad for a person, and you can understand that this is painful for them too, but that doesn't mean they have a right to behave in whatever way, you know, in a harmful way that's hurting you, and just make excuses for it. You have a right to stand up for yourself and set a boundary and say, hey, this is not good for me, this is hurting me. I understand that you're going through a frustrating time, but it's not right for you to, lash out at me and expect this from me. I have my rights. And it takes a lot of practice to be able to establish boundaries with someone who has been walking all over your boundaries. If they're used to that, then it's going to take some practice and maybe a lot of time to reestablish healthy boundaries. So anyway, it's not an easy thing. It does take practice. So, okay, I'm done. I'm rambling now. Thank y'all for listening and watching, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.